Okay, so now let's talk about something more tangible in Venezuela. When Juan Guaidó first entered the conversation as interim president, despite Nicolás Maduro claiming that he was legitimately reelected in Venezuela, we asked what's going to happen next? Who's going to prevail here? And as I said at the time, it's really going to be influenced by the military because in these, it's very common historically that when you have these authoritarian types like Nicolás Maduro, that they have the support of the military, at least for some period of time. And when there is an attempt to actually have some kind of real democracy or fair elections or whatever other method of accountability is tried to be put in place, it will often come down to the military. If the military stays behind Maduro, it's likely Maduro will retain control. If the military starts to split or abandon Maduro, it becomes more likely that Guaido will prevail as interim president and that hopefully new elections will be held. We now have some high-profile military defections to tell you about. The first is General Francisco Esteban Yanez Rodriguez, who is disavowing what he calls the dictatorial authority of Nicolás Maduro and is recognizing Juan Guaidó as the interim president. He put out a video which we're showing to our TV and YouTube audience in military uniform. He's identified as the director of strategic planning in the high command of the Venezuelan Air Force. That matches how he's identified on the Air Force website. So that all checks out. And this is the highest ranking military defection so far. There have been some lower ranking defections as well, which maybe we'll talk about later in the week. The general says that the military should stop defending Maduro, that if they're afraid of internal threats from the military, then they should simply stay at home. The general also says that Maduro has airplanes ready to go to flee if it gets to that point. And of course, the general hopes that it does. And this is absolutely huge because the way that these authoritarian autocrats stay in power, especially in Latin American history, and as many of you know, I'm from Argentina. We've had dictatorships in Argentina, the most recent one ending right around the time that I was born. These individuals, these authoritarian autocrats, retain control when they have the support of the military. Once you don't, things start to crumble. Now, is there precedent for authoritarian dictators to leave what we would call somewhat peacefully? There are. So the Shah of Iran left in 1979 and died in exile in Egypt. Now, it didn't work out super well because then the Islamic Republic was declared. But at least the Shah did leave without starting, by definition, a sort of bloody war. And so it is with precedent. Maybe Nicolás Maduro is being pushed closer and closer to that. In Ethiopia, Miriam fled the country when it was clear he wasn't going to win, was promised asylum by Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe. Idi Amin went to Saudi Arabia until his death. So there are examples of this. Now, in Iran, again, what's particularly depressing is that the people mostly did want democracy, the way that I believe the Venezuelan people also want democracy. But the Islamic Republic came out on top, and that's a reality. So that's when it circles back to the geopolitics. Well, Trump wants this, and Macron is on this side, and the Argentinian president is on that side. Let's first evaluate whether Maduro deserves our support. Then let's figure out, are we electing people in the U.S. that are going to intervene in ways we don't want and deal with that? And then, of course, we have to be aware of the reality that just because you remove someone who shouldn't be there or someone who shouldn't be there is pushed out by the public, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get a replacement that you like. And Iran is a really, really good example of that. Where might Maduro go? Some say Bolivia, although I read one interesting piece that says it's not going to be Bolivia. Nicaragua has been mentioned. Cuba has been mentioned, although that's almost more complicated for Cuba, which does seem to want to continue to improve relations with the United States. The more likely Maduro is to have an idea of where he could go and never face consequences, the more likely it is that he might leave power peacefully. And that is, of course, what we should all be hoping for the sake of the Venezuelan people. Let me know where you are on this issue. I know you will. I'm on Twitter at @dpakman. The show is on Twitter at David Pakman Show. We'll be back right after this. Today's program is sponsored in part by Movement. Valentine's Day is coming up. Movement knows exactly what to get for that special someone. Get the curated Valentine's Day gift boxes, complete with perfectly matched watches and bracelets, or a watch and strap. Movement introduced jewelry to their collections not long ago. This one is a no-brainer, one and done. I hate shopping for gifts for people. I also hate giving cliche gifts like chocolate or flowers. Give a gift that someone actually wants. Give something like a watch that makes an effortless statement, maintaining that clean, minimal design and high quality that we've come to know and love from Movement. The prices start at just $95. Interchangeable straps for tons of occasions. I have a Movement watch with all sorts of different straps that I swap out depending on what I'm doing. Get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to mvmt.com/Pakman. See why Movement keeps growing. Check out their expanding collection at mvmt.com/PAKMAN. Join the movement.